Mike Kern here with Adam Emmenecker for another shoot-around segment. And Adam, there's quite a bit of intrigue as we head into the final week of the regular season. We only have 12 conference games left. Everybody's got one home, one away. A lot at stake in the last week of the season.
Yeah, I mean, hard to believe, Mike, that the end of this week is finally the first day of March, which is just crazy. I mean, you and I have been going through these now for weeks since the turn of the year, and it's just been like it always is, just a fantastic Missouri Valley Conference season. And we're finally in the last week, everything leading, culminating with Arch Madness, right? And so when you look at, to your point, you look at what's coming up. I think we probably know who the one seed is right now, Indiana State with a 1 game lead and the tiebreaker against Drake. And I had the opportunity to see Indiana State this week. First time I've been back in the Holman Center for 16 years since I played there. Man, that place looks awesome. The crowd was absolutely electric. And what I was excited to see with Coach Josh and his crew, Coach Josh Shirts and his crew, they really got their swagger back. So Robbie Avila making his play for Player of the Year. He's top 10 in the conference and points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game. How many 6'10" guys do you see that are top 10 in their conference in assists per game? Had a big game, even though in a loss at SIU with 30.6 rebounds. But, I look at Indiana State's schedule and you see at Evansville and home for Murray. You look at that last game of the year, you could have the trophy, the conference championship trophy in Terre Haute, kind of waiting on the Sycamores. Not only are they playing for that conference title and the one seed overall, but also still in the conversation for an at-large bid. It's been an awesome year for Indiana State, looking for them to close out strong.
Yeah, Robbie's certainly a unique point center, and we have had one of those in the recent years with Cameron Krutwig and Loyola, and they went to the Final Four. No predictions here, but Indiana State is certainly a high caliber team for us. Other teams that are making a big week for themselves. We got SIU and Bradley, both of them playing key games, one against each other. SIU finishes its year against Northern Iowa at home. Bradley heads to Drake in the regular season finale. So those two games for those two teams, obviously key matchups heading into the final week of the regular season.
Yeah, the battle of the Bryans. Who has the better spelling? Is it Y or is it I? I think SIU and Bradley only makes sense that it comes down to the end of the year, and those two kind of been battling. Bradley, had their 5 game losing streak in the middle of the season, and for the most part has been pretty solid since. SIU started slow against Indiana State the first conference game, but have continued to battle and fight. And I think so. Indiana State likely number one. Looks like Drake's maybe going to be in that 2 seed, but just two great games this week. You mentioned SIU at Bradley. It'll give SIU an opportunity to get to that 3 seed, see if they can put their best foot forward, knowing that Bradley has to travel to Drake. Like, you think about where Bradley is, they could play well both games this week and lose both games this week. That's really tough for a coaching staff. But the maybe just one quick shout out is, as we think about the games coming into this week, what Duke Dean did last week, player of the week, 35 against Missouri State. And you look at that and you think, well, he followed up, only had 11 against Illinois State, but 11 out of 48. If that's a normal scoring game, that's basically 20. So it's almost like he had 35 and 20 in those 2 games. But a lot of a big opportunity for both Bradley and Southern Illinois to kind of control their own destiny and make sure to stay in those Friday games in St. Louis.
Yeah, Bradley and SIU currently ahead of Belmont and Northern Iowa by a narrow margin. And with them playing one another, somebody loses that game. Belmont knocking on the door. Of course, they play Murray State in a rivalry game on Wednesday. That's always tough as we witness with Drake going to Northern Iowa on Saturday. But to talk a little bit about Belmont right there on the door as well as Northern Iowa.
Yeah, and both trying to sneak into the conversation. I think Northern Iowa, when you look at not only tiebreakers, the head-to-head, but then you look at the net rankings, Northern Iowa a little bit of an edge if they went out. Belmont, you mentioned at Murray and home for Evansville, probably on the outside of looking in as you think about a long shot, maybe for that 4 seed overall. But the Belmont Bruins and that offense definitely dangerous, especially if you look at them as a potential 5 seed going into Arch Madness.
And we talked off camera before we got on the show here. we're trying to go through the all conference picks that you might have to pick. And you mentioned Robbie, of course, as one of the leading candidates for the Larry Bird Trophy. Tucker DeVries is the defending Larry Bird Trophy winner, and Xavier Johnson, it might be the third player in league history to lead the league in scoring and assists. He's over 6 assists a game, over 22 points per game. Who else you got?
I mean, strong resume for all those three. I have not decided who my vote for player of the year is going to be. Pretty safe to say, though, revolutionary. I know I have those three guys as absolute locks for first team. They've had great years. Every single one of them has had a great year. You could tell me each one is player of the year, and I can't make an argument. I mean, I really can't. We're splitting hairs if we're saying who's best. But I wrote down, Mike, my players 10 spots, right? I get to vote for 10 spots, 5 first team, 5 second team. I wrote down 24 names. 24 names, which I think is just credit to the depth of the league and just some awesome individual performances and a lot of growth for individual players. You know, I think you look at the all newcomer team, I'm pretty solid there. I think I have my 5 freshman team. There's 3 guys who I feel really good about and a couple others that have to, I got to do a little bit more digging and make sure we have the right folks. And all defensive team, again, I think in the league is pretty tough. I'm probably at 7 or 8 names for 5 spots there. So we're coming down the home stretch. This is so hard every year to be able to narrow it down, but 24 guys for 10 spots, I thought was as challenging, as difficult as I've experienced voting on players for first and second team with the Valley.
You know, this tells me this, Adam, is that those 24 guys are all playing in St. Louis. The league is better. The talent is better, and it's going to be tough for all conference, but it's going to be a great tournament. We can't wait till Arch Madness starts on March the 7th in Enterprise Center. Looking forward to seeing you there, as well as all 12 teams, and we will crown a champion.
And how about this, Mike? Last little bit as I was doing some digging. Currently, our 8 and our 9 seed, Illinois State and Missouri State. Well, who would the 1 seed Indiana State play? Illinois State, who they've lost to, and then Missouri State, who they almost lost to and had beat Drake at home. So no rest for the weary, right? Even the 1 seed, there's no gimmies in that first game. To your point, going to make for a great tournament.
Adam, you are exactly right. Looking forward to seeing all the fans there and all the teams there in just shorter than a week. So thank you very much for your support all year long and your great job on our TV network. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple days.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.